And as you know, our events are not possible without the support of our annual sponsors. Quantcast has been a long-time top annual sponsor of ours. They're helping us out with today's event, and our other annual sponsors, REQ, Causal IQ, and Zeta. We really appreciate and love you guys, so give them a big round of applause. And we have some early bird sponsors as well, Simplify and Tremor and Viant. So thank you, Jenny Jones, who has joined the dark side, or the other side, I should say, our early digital planning day and December event sponsors. So thank you very much to them. And now on to the main event. Please welcome Tom Heaton, Executive Board Member and Senior Advertising Director for the RJ. I'll let him tell you more about today's event and introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Brandy. I'm really excited to be out here again. It's great to see everybody and be able to see this chat going off again. It looks like another regular LVIMA event where everybody's having some great conversation. Please keep that conversation going. I'm really excited to be joined now by Ingrid Burton, the CMO of Quantcast. She's bringing her extensive background in AI, machine learning, big data, SaaS, and marketing to the ad tech universe. With that, I'm going to let Ingrid kind of introduce what she's got going on today, and I will tell everybody here, join us in the chat, send those questions over. I'd love to be able to share those. You've got a great chance here to get some insight from Ingrid. Ingrid, tell us all about it.
All right. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Brandy, and the whole LVIMA team. You appear to be the best in the West. So I'm thrilled to be here today. And today, what I'm going to talk about, and hopefully you're going to be learning some new information about AI and how I'm going to break it down into very simple problems like math problems. And give you a perspective on how AI and machine learning can help you as a marketer, as an advertiser, and really make it possible for you to be even more successful than you already are. So let me start by sharing my screen and share and present. So Tom, can you see my screen? Somebody tell me yes?
I can. I think we're good to go.
Cool. So the topic today is about demystifying AI. Because as I think a lot of you know, what is AI? What does it mean for me as a marketer? I hear about it, I may be using it. And so I really want to break it down into some, like I said, very simple math problems. So why math, right? So, and why Ingrid Burton from Quantcast? How can she talk about this topic? So I have a degree in math, so I love math. And that's my training. I have a degree in math and computer science. And early in my career, I was a developer. I was an engineer and developed for a number of years before I moved into a marketing role. So not classically trained as a marketer, but as a technologist. And so that has really benefited the companies I've served as either CMO or marketing executive to be able to distill very complex technologies into simple terms so that our customers can understand them. I've had a long career that spans various technologies. I was at Sun Microsystems, if you recall that company, for nearly 20 years. IoT company called Silver Spring Networks, Plantronics, which is a communications company, SAP, H2O.ai, which and Hortonworks, which are AI, machine learning, and big data companies. So I've got a lot of knowledge here in this space. But one thing I learned about, why, Ingrid, why do math and marketing have anything to do with each other? And then I'll get to why AI makes complete sense to me. So one of the things I learned about people with math degrees or, kind of a business analytics degree and marketing is that we have three things in common, math and marketing, which is we reason, we're very analytical, we like numbers. And what is marketing all about today? It's all about the metrics, the numbers, analyzing the numbers, and then creativity. Every engineer, every scientist is creative. What's every marketing person? They're creative. So the idea that math and marketing are like almost hand in glove. They're, all about analytics and reasoning. They're all about numbers, and they're all about creativity. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, is really open your mind about what AI and machine learning can do for you. But as I said, I think, at first blush, I know when I heard about artificial intelligence many years ago, because it's not a new concept. Artificial intelligence has been around since the 1940s and 1950s. In fact, it was termed artificial intelligence in the late 1950s. And I have to say, it's anything but artificial. It's really augmented intelligence. It's helping human beings become more intelligent. It's not about replacing humans. It's about augmenting our intelligence and what we know by having machines learn what we kind of know. And so the classic examples of AI, and there's so many, right? It can appear to be like, it's such a big field, I can't understand it. Let's break it down. So AI could be about image recognition software. When you talk about the cameras and doing facial recognition, AI is also about self-driving cars. How do we know what's happening next on the road? What is my car going to do? What am I, what's my role in that? So self-driving cars, image recognition, NLP, which is natural language processing. That's being used for sentiment analysis, like taking your Twitter and social feeds and doing sentiment analysis on that. That's an area of AI as well. And then, of course, machine learning, which is the area I'm going to talk about today. So vast amounts of technology going into this, a lot of different ways to look at AI, but AI is an umbrella for a number of areas in the field. And there's not one size fits all. They're very different techniques and what problems you're trying to solve from an AI perspective. But the number one thing, and the reason why AI is taking off today is because it starts with data. We cannot do anything. AI can do nothing without data. I can't stress that enough. AI by itself cannot work without data. So every data point that we're gathering as marketers, everything that we see, AI learns from, and we train the AI, not the AI training us. So it starts with that data. And where's that data coming from? It's coming from everywhere. If you think about it, every click, every swipe, every interaction, whether physical or virtual, streams of data coming in. If you think about the robotics in the cars and 200 plus sensors on a car, I think that's even a low number. That's all data that's being generated instantly all the time. Every time we browse, every time we walk around the internet, go anywhere, all that data is being emitted. All that data, in some cases, being tracked and stored. Other cases, it's not, right? It could be just thrown away and just continuously going. So data streaming is a very important concept here. But data is everywhere. And this is why AI is taking off in this world today. Because 40, 50 years ago, when AI was first, coming on board, where was the data? Those big hard drives, we don't even remember what that looks like anymore. It wasn't stored in the cloud. Today, data is everywhere. And we as marketers are benefiting from that data. And now it's, what do we do with that data? How do we make sense of that data? Now, I would argue that with machine learning, which is a key field of AI, it's all about math. So I'm going to break this down into what does machine learning and math have to do with AI and the data realm. So machine learning is the mathematical instantiation of AI. That's a simple way to think about it. It's all about formulas. It's all about building models and algorithms. And I think, when we think about it as mathematicians or statisticians, which are the people that have started creating the algorithms and the models, as well as data scientists, it's all these massive amounts of formulas, variables, multivariable, equations, if you're in advanced mathematics, that help you, and linear algebra, which is one of my favorite topics. How do you act on all that data? So it's all mathematical, and it's being done by compute power very quickly today on data. And again, machine learning is nothing without data. So if you're familiar with X plus Y equals Z, or A squared plus B squared equals C squared, think about that times 100 in complexity, right? Think about those basic algebraic equations, and that's what machine learning is. Machine learning is breaking it down into math problems, acting on data, and coming up with a result. So it's math, but it's not magic. So what does data plus AI and machine learning do for you? So as a marketer, it helps you look at patterns. What's happening out there? What are the patterns of things that are happening? What about preferences? What do consumers want to use, want to do next? And what about, I think the most important area is about predictions, because taking historical data you've seen in the past, your business data, your social streams, all of that, marrying it with your real-time data can create not only a pattern, but can help an AI, a machine learning engine, determine a predictive pattern. So figuring out like what's going to happen next. And why is this important? All of this adds up to really getting to know your customers better, really knowing them in a data-driven environment, really knowing what they're going to do next, predicting what's going to happen, and helping you make sense of what you could do next to get an offer in front of them, get some creativity in front of them, etc. So just examples of how AI is being used in marketing today. It's really quite fascinating to see a number of companies really doing this in all sectors, right? Financial services and banking, insurance, retail, obviously, hospitality and entertainment, the media companies. Everybody's doing something with AI and machine learning today. All the major brands are in this realm. What are they doing with it? They're increasing sales, right? So how do I cross-sell, upsell? We used to, as a marketer, like, oh, let's get a greater share of wallet. Let's cross-sell, upsell. How do we do that? AI can help you predict what's going to happen next and who's going to be likely to take an offer. What's your next best offer? This person did that. This person also looks like that person. Maybe if I sell them also something along these lines. Recommendation offers, recommendation engines, understanding on the lower left, your next best customer. Wouldn't you love to know who's likely to be your next best customer? Not just a cold lead, but that cold lead turns into a closed won opportunity. Wouldn't you love to know that? Wouldn't you love to know what you're supposed to do in their journey? Almost automatically have the engines run this for you? I would. I really am looking forward to the day where it just precisely just happens. It takes me to precision. How do you know where to place your ads? Don't just put money out there and just hope something happens. Really know your audience, really know the intelligence around your audience, and really know how to make an effective and creative ad that's going to reach the right person at the right moment. And then finally, what is AI in marketing all about is also building loyalty. How do we know about personalization? How do we know what's going to happen next with that person and continue to nurture them and create that brand loyalty that I think we all would love to have? So recommendations engines, brand loyalty, all of that. In fact, many of the brand loyalty companies out there use AI and machine learning to predict for their customers what's going to happen and what's going to happen next with that particular loyalty member. So let's look at each one of these 3 Ps and what I mean by them so that you fully understand how AI and machine learning can help you with data. So the patterns is pretty simple. It's a group of people, like how do we segment a group of people or consumers that are doing similar things on the internet or in any kind of behavioral group that's working together or seems to be very similar. And sometimes you may not know. It has nothing to do with age or gender or background. It may be that this is just a group of people that have a very similar pattern that you or I wouldn't have guessed. But a machine learning engine that's sifting through all of this data that's coming at it can find that pattern that I couldn't find. I can't operate on trillions of rows of data, but a machine learning engine can. So that helps you. It can give you an answer and understand a pattern of behavior of what customers, consumers are doing. And that I think is super important in terms of our marketing efforts so that we're, getting to the right person, not spending money frivolously. I know we're all hard pressed to get results, but let's not do it by overspending. Let's do it, with intelligence and really understanding what's going on with the data. The second idea is preferences. And this is a really important idea. I heard that you're having a privacy session. Sounds like upcoming after this session in a couple of weeks or a month or so. And preferences and privacy go hand in hand. So this is another important area. How do we know about consumer privacy? How do we know about consumer preferences? Because when you match that with patterns, you can also see, what might happen next. We are all consumers. I always put myself in the shoes of, I'm a consumer. I like certain things, and you're a consumer as well. No matter who you are, you have preferences. You are unique to you, but there's probably a group of people just like you. But we want to be able to tell the brands that we love, I would love it if the brands that I love gave me more offers. I will tell you, there are those days where I want retail therapy online or even in the store, and I want that offer. So, but when I don't get that offer, it's like a miss for them, right? Because I would buy from my favorite brands if the right offer was served up at the right moment. This is me. Let's take me for example. So I might be looking for a new Volvo, right? Because, and I'm just using Volvo as an example, because my interests are the outdoors, sports, traveling. This is actually me backpacking in the Sierra Nevadas here a few years ago now. I'm very much a family member and I'd like adventures. And so I need a new Volvo in order to have an SUV. I'm thinking about a Volvo. I should probably put SUV, but I'm thinking about buying a new car, right? So this is my interest, but I have a personality. I have outdoor, outside interests outside of work and outside of just, I'm looking for a certain car. I have all these other interests. And so if I gave my preferences or gave permission for a company to look at me that way, that might result in a very favorable outcome for, a car company like Volvo. But this is what I get, right? And I think a lot of you get this too. I get ads that don't pertain to me. And here's just a handful. The matchmaking ad in particular always makes me laugh, because I always get served up ads about, you must be interested in these people in your area. And I'm like, I'm happily married. I'm a family member. And where's my outdoor ad, right? Where's my Patagonia ad that says, here's your next 20% off coupon on a Patagonia, vest or, puffer jacket or what have you, right? A fleece. I would buy it. There are days when I'm like, I need one right now. I don't get those ads. And I keep saying North Face, Patagonia, I'm out here, but I don't get those ads, right? I get these kind of ads. And I would probably contend that you get all those ads as well. So we as an industry, I think all of us as marketers, we have to fix this, right? We need to ask consumers for their consent, and we need to be focused on consumers. Why is this important? If we had those preferences, and sometimes we already have those preferences built in right now, and that's how a machine learning engine can really look at it and say, not only is this person in a pattern, they're also providing, some kind of view of who they are, their preferences. This is how recommendation engines work. Machine learning can actually give you that insight and give you that view of not sending me a matchmaking ad, but sending me, a fleece ad, or outdoor gear or new shoes, new hiking boots, ski gear, that kind of thing. So predictions is, I think, one of the more exciting areas of what is happening with data and AI and machine learning. It really is about seeing way over the horizon, seeing what's up ahead, and understanding based on prior historical data, current data, and there's an algorithm and a model that's built that says this is likely to happen next. And those companies that use AI and machine learning with their data, all of their data, their business data, their social data, their marketing data, their CRM data, their sales data, all of their data are going to be the winners in this race, right? This is a race to see how you can reach your customers in a much better way and get them to be loyal, buy more from you, and grow your business, right? So predictions are really super important. And here I'll give you an example. So at Quantcast, we work with, we have a free product called Quantcast Measure that is a tag. It's a first party data tag that we put on websites. So we have one of the largest real-time live unique data sets out there in the industry. It rivals the Googles and Facebooks of the world. We have 100 million plus websites feeding into this. We can see the patterns that are happening and emerging. So about a year ago, what was happening? Pandemic time, right? What happened with car sales? Search and interest in car buying declined precipitously. This happened also in advertising and in many other industries, right? Hoteling, everything. People stopped traveling, everything. But I'm just going to look at cars for a minute, right? But then you can see a curve in April. You know, we're all in this decline in March, but then in April, things started to increase. So what was happening? What we saw was week over week, a 48% increase in people starting to look at car dealerships, looking at used cars. And so what was really happening is 8 weeks after we started to see that trend, many car companies announced that the car sales were up, but we already were seeing that early on in the pattern and the prediction of what was going to happen next. Now, if you were a car dealership, wouldn't you have wanted to know this so you could put an offer in front of the right people that were looking right away? So you could say, look, you know, we're going to float your interest rate, or there's a new car here and we're willing to take this much money off. We want to generate sales. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, is being able to see that pattern and see that prediction before it even happens. So this is something that we at Quantcast see all the time. And with our new Quantcast platform, we are able to do that. So who are we? We talked a little bit about this. I think a lot of you already know who we are. We work with publishers, agencies, and marketers on championing, you know, the open internet, not the walled gardens, not the Facebooks, not the YouTubes, the rest of the internet, which is the vast majority of the internet, and giving, you know, free access to, you know, consent management, as well as that tag, that measure product that I talked about. And we work with the who's who. But what we've recently introduced is a Quantcast platform, which is a single platform that allows you to plan, activate, and measure your marketing and advertising campaigns. What's at the heart of it? AI and machine learning. Okay. It's operating on a real-time live data set, a live data stream, and we are constantly calculating what is happening with every consumer, every person on the internet right now, and right now, and right now, right? So every second of every day, we are seeing the patterns and calculating a new answer. So if you want to advertise effectively, this is the kind of thing you need to start thinking about. And there's a lot of other solutions out there as well in the MarTech space. There are, you know, solutions out there where they're saying, well, might happen next in your funnel. But in the advertising space and the ad tech space, this is one of the premier solutions. And it's all about, you know, math. And it's not magic, but it's giving you the data plus AI and machine learning to give you that, you know, prediction of what's going to happen next, precision and performance. So it's really going to help you be a better at your marketing and at your ad tech. Now, at your advertising. And what also we're hearing about is, okay, what's happening around third-party cookies going away? Hey, not a new news flash here. We've known about it for some time, but a company like Quantcast is doing 3 things right now. We are participating in industry standards, helping people. You know, we think as a industry, we need to have standards so everyone can participate fully and on an equal and level playing field. So we're working with many different standards bodies, including the IAB, Pre-Bid, and the W3C. We're going to interoperate with all the other identity standards out there that are kind of being floated around. So, you know, if customers want those, you know, like UID 2.0 or LiveRamp or Flock from Google, which is cohorts and patterns, you know, we will be working with that in our platform. But the number one thing, reason I'm bringing this up is the innovation that needs to happen, right? The way in which we can, you know, get through the third-party cookie conundrum, as we call it, is to use data, multiple signals of data, and AI machine learning to give you a result, right? You don't need third-party cookies. It's absolutely not, you know, must have. But AI machine learning, again, is solving another pain point for the advertising space, for the marketing space, so that we can all get better at this. So AI machine learning is going to be one of the paths forward. So bottom line, AI and marketing is going to make us all better marketers, right? I really love the fact that I can be way more creative and not focus on the MarTech stack or the ad tech stack, but really focus on the creativity. How am I going to reach my customers in a much more, fun, productive, engaging way? That's what I like about marketing. I don't really want to have to worry about how all the tech stacks work together. So really, AI can take some of the heavy lifting out of it and help us as humans see those patterns, preferences, and predictions a lot better. And it really is the magic that happens because of the math to really get to know your customers. Finally, I just want to end on this, and then we'll open it up for Q&A, which is, first of all, if you want to learn more about Quantcast, go to our website. Second of all, on the left-hand side, I highly recommend, if you're a business person, a marketer, a publisher, advertiser, anyone in business, and including all of your students, any of your high school students, college students, please take a course at Coursera. I don't work for them, but I love this course, AI for Everyone, right? So Andrew Ng, they just IPO'd actually. Coursera is the company name. I think for a nominal fee, there is an AI for Everyone course, and it's for business people. It's for ordinary people like me that can then, understand the big concepts, understand what a neural network is, understand machine learning, how it solves business problems. So if you're interested in AI, machine learning, and learning more, take this course, AI for Everyone. If you're interested in learning more about Quantcast, come visit us at our website or talk to your local Quantcast team. Skylar, Cody, and Tia are your local Quantcast team. I'm sure a lot of you know them. They're great people, love working with them. And just, get them involved, ask them more. We're happy to get on the phone with you. So again, go back to, I would say, go take this Coursera course or any other course out there about AI and machine learning for marketers. This one is a great one. I'd highly recommend it, and learn more from us. So with that, I think I'll turn it over back to you, Tom.
Ingrid, that's awesome. Thank you very much. I love seeing that you've got the additional resources right there. I know we've had a few questions that have come across. There's a few things that I heard as you were going through that kind of triggered me a few different ways as a marketer, as an advertiser. First off, the idea of that ad journey and not maybe lining up with exactly your personality or your interests. It may be a little bit gross, but it always got people's attention with the idea of, do you really want those toe fungus ads to show up on every article you have to read, from here on out? Or would you rather have something that's more tailored to your beliefs, to your needs, the things that you're buying on a regular basis? And I feel like that's the same sort of direction that you're talking about with things right now, is having that ability to maybe tailor something to an action that they might actually want to take, as opposed to spamming them with a gross picture of toenail
fungus. That's more pertinent to myself or to you, right? I think the data is there, right? But you have to gather the data. The technology has to gather the data. You as a person cannot possibly get all this data, right? You as a marketer, you don't have access to all that data. But what I would say is, gather the data, your own data, marry it with, data sets that are out there, first-party data sets. I would not recommend third-party data sets. There's a lot of data out there. And then use an AI machine learning engine. Quantcast has one, but there are, if you have a data science team, you could use them as well to go figure out what you can do next, right? What is going to attract that next person to your product, to your business? And that, I think, is the most exciting part, because I'm tired of getting spam. I get it all. I mean, I'm no different than anybody else. My heart sinks when I see these ads coming across that mean nothing to me. And it's just like, oh, that poor marketing person, they just spent money on something that doesn't matter to me. And that's my thought. Like, what a waste. I hope they keep their job. I mean, it's just right. It really comes down to, I want every marketer to be a better marketer, right? I want them to be great at marketing and not trying to figure the needle in the haystack thing. Let the machine do that. You tell them what you want. You tell the machines what you want. This is the outcome I want. This is the type of person I am looking for. It will find it.
Absolutely. I think that hits on the question that Tammy had about, can AI stop spammers?
Good question. I think there are solutions out there that can stop spammers, right? There's email blockers and all that kind of stuff that stop spammers. AI could absolutely stop spammers.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, and that kind of
I'd
leads
have to think about that. I don't know, no single solution comes to mind, but there's email blockers and things like that, just like there were ad blockers. But
yeah,
definitely, maybe
if
that's
I
a
could
new
just
company
write
idea.
something that would block the auto warranty calls. Good.
Yeah, I think the problem is right now it's such a there's so much data coming in. I think,
Mhm.
we know what's going on as, marketers. We know what's going on because we do the same thing. We're looking for those patterns, those keywords, we're searching for that. But then when you get it wrong, it's just such a waste, right? It's not productive.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of ties into something that Ben said at the beginning too. And kind of my thoughts is, you mentioned the idea of the consumer first, consent first. I think a lot of consumers out there view AI as kind of what Ben said, the matrix. It's just a bunch of
Oh yeah,
numbers. And
yeah.
frankly, it's a little bit scary. And
Oh, yeah.
I think people see that, and you tell me, I mean, is that the consumer mindset of AI that we're facing?
So having been in the AI and machine learning space since early 2018, or I guess 2017, um, look, there's a lot of myths about a lot of things, right? So consumers are absolutely scared of AI. They think Terminator. I didn't think Matrix, but yeah, they think Terminator, right? End of the world is coming, right? These machines are taking over the world and they're going to kill us all off.
Right.
I kind of laugh at that, having been close enough to the technology and the space to know that we are so far from that. We are so far from that. We still are at the point where, I don't know, recent news on self-driving, autonomous driving.
Mhm.
Now experts are saying that's at least 10 years away.
Mhm.
Okay. It's not anywhere, 2 years ago, you would have thought, oh, we're all going to be like sitting back in our back seat, reading a book. That is not happening because it is so far from reality, right? There's an education that has to happen from the AI companies, I believe, to kind of debunk the myths that Terminator is coming to take over the world, that an AI is going to take over your life, that it's going to put you out of a job. It is not true. In fact, more job creation has happened with this technology because it gives us humans the freedom to get out of the mundane and get into the creative side, which is what we're really good at. But we see far more than a machine can ever see. And by the
Mhm.
way, we as humans have to be in the loop, whether it's creating the models, okay, to looking at the outcomes of those models. We have to be in the loop in order to say, did we train that correctly? Did we train that AI correctly? Because maybe
Mhm.
we didn't. And there's a classic example, if we have a minute, I'll just share.
Yeah.
The classic example was Amazon was looking to hire diversity candidates here a few years back. They were looking for diversity candidates, and there was an HR policy that dated back probably 10 or 20 years, whenever, early days of Amazon, that said, we're not going to hire or we're not going to interview people from women's colleges. Okay. So what happens? The data scientist plugs in the rules that's in the model. And Amazon's like, why can't we get diverse candidates to interview for our positions? Well, they've been like jettisoned out of the system. Their resumes were screened. They were jettisoned out because the rules that the humans made years prior still existed. And so they dug in, they saw what happened, like, oh my gosh, this rule, we don't want this rule. They opened it up, they got more diversity. And this is why it's really important for humans to really guard and look at what's happening with the AI. It's at the beginning of the process and at the end of the process, but let it do all its work in between. But don't just take the answer. You got to always use your own intelligence. As I said, it's an augment intelligence, but use your own intelligence to say, does this make sense? In some cases, it absolutely does. In other cases, you're like, there's something wrong with this model, because humans make mistakes. Humans train the AI.
Yeah,
We,
that's exactly what I was going to go back to my notes and say, yes.
we
idea
start
of
the
augmented.
process. So if
Yep.
we are flawed, it is flawed.
Yeah. So as you talk about the idea of the third party cooking going away, and we're seeing now this consumer first, consent first, and there's going to need to be that ability to collect the data. Otherwise, as we just talked about, you're going to have flawed data, and then we're going to be back to getting the wrong ads for everybody. How do you think we can frame up the consumer mindset in a way that allows them to trust giving their data to us?
Yeah, I think it's an industry, the industry together, all of us, marketers, advertisers, publishers, have to make it very clear that in order for all of us to enjoy the amazing amount of content that is generated on the internet for free, that amazing amount of content, whether it's news, entertainment, personal stories, all of the stuff that is being generated by people is free. If you think about it, this amazing library of knowledge on the whole internet is essentially free, except for certain places, right? You've got to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. You've got to subscribe to the New York Times because they found that they couldn't publish or they couldn't do the advertising model. So in order for consumers to continue to, really enjoy their free content, they have to understand it's give to get, right? They're going to have to give up a little bit of knowledge. The data that we want is not about them personally, but about, maybe, their pattern. We want to know a bit more, and then we can give them more relevant ads to fund the free content that they enjoy. And I think it is really that a lot of my friends who are not in tech do not understand this. I still find it astounding. You think that this is all free? Who do you think is funding this? Right? Do you think you get to go to these sites for no fee? It's astounding to me that this still exists in the population, everywhere. Very educated people think well, somebody's just doing this. Well, somebody's paying too, right? There's a huge amount of infrastructure on the backside of this that has to happen. So I think we as an industry should work together to educate consumers, and we're consumers. So we have that point of view, right? I don't like annoying ads, but I like my free content. So give me an ad that works for me.
Absolutely. I think that's an interesting balance. And Tammy and I are on the same page with a lot of these questions because she basically took that one out of my mouth. She talks about, will we be able to control the personal info that we share? And I'm curious from your side of things, as we go into this state of the cookieless world, what is that balance that you see between the consumer and the corporation being able to control what data is shared and what data is basically required from the consumer, from the corporation side?
Well, I think and I think every corporation is different. I was just hearing, earlier when Brandy was talking about like, oh, we're going to hear from Visa and we're going to hear from Alaska Airlines and others, right? They're all in this position, right? So it doesn't matter where you work, you're all in this position. But if you're Alaska Airlines, and by the way, I'm a frequent flyer on Alaska Airlines. So if, they know who I am, right? So I actually don't even see offers from them. It's even more interesting. They know who I am, but they're somehow not merging it with my overall data. And I'm willing to give a brand like that, my personal information. I already have, because I want to have my TSA free, pre-check. I've already given them enough of my personal information so I can fly. Now I want to be able to say, they can see my pattern of where I'm flying. Why aren't they giving me more offers about that? Right? Why aren't they, I'm okay with that, right? Because I've already given my information. And so, just like I keep saying, Patagonia, where are you? I'm waiting for my offers.
Right.
Because I love Patagonia and I love that brand. I love North Face. And I'm quite outdoorsy. So I'm always looking for new gear. Where are my offers? And I'm in their loyalty programs and I still don't get the offers. So I think there's something broken that we all need to fix, right? Which is, I'm willing to give my loyalty information to get more points, to have a percent of, taken off of my next purchase. but also I would love to get those ads because I actually would buy something in the middle of the day. I'm sitting in front of my darn computer all day. I would I would buy something.
Right. Yeah.
So I think
Just
it's
show
that
me the
balance.
newest thing, I'll buy it. Yeah.
I don't think I'm unique that way because I think we're all that way, right? I
Yep.
think we're all consumers. We all have our preferences. We know what they are. And we're all uniquely different. And that's a double entendre, but we are all unique, right? We want to make sure that I trust the brands, like I trust the brands I named to use my information in the right way to serve me an offer. Once if they breach that trust with me, that's another conversation. But I really do trust those brands.
Yeah, and that goes back to a question I had pop up from Randall, who's going to ask, and said he missed it, but I'm going to call you back to it, Randall. He talked about, will AI replace my job as a marketer? And I think you just hit it on the head. There needs to be more human touch with this, be able to pull the trigger and say, hey, you know what? Let's make sure that Ingrid does see that new Patagonia vest that she needs for the back trip, things like that. I think that's where we still have a lot of opportunity to jump in. I know we've got a few more questions here too that have all popped up. And Tammy's asking again, when will we have the ability to opt in before companies can share our information with others, that spreading of the data? When do you think
that privacy regulation, and you guys are going to have a privacy session, it sounds like coming up. So it's happening in Europe today, right? It's a law called Gdpr. You've all heard of it, I'm sure.
Yep.
In the EU, came out in 2018. It's been a lot of heavy angst for all of us companies in the US that have to also market to consumers in Europe. So they have to click on, consent, and, they can, you've got to read the agreements that you're consenting to, right? And you've got to read the agreements, like read your Apple agreement, read your Google and Facebook agreements. You'd be astounded what they're doing with your data. Okay. So it's on you, right? But that consent pop-up has already been happening since 2018 all over the world. And privacy laws and regulations are coming into being, right? We've got CCPA in California. There's something similar happening in Virginia. I don't know where Nevada is right now with theirs, but it's all coming. So we're all going to have to consent. And at some point, our company is looking at, and at that consent point, can we look at gathering your preferences at the same time, right?
Right.
That would be an opt-in, and we call that permission. That is something that we should be looking at longer term as these regulations come into being. But it's a little bit of a chicken and egg. It hasn't quite happened yet. But the opt-in, when I click, we accept all cookies on this site, it's your choice to connect, get that. That's going to be the opt-in, very similar opt-in that's going to happen probably starting next year.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that more and more. I love some of the comments that we're seeing here. GDPR, CCPA, my favorite four-letter words. Tom, I think we've heard that. Yes, it's been a four-letter word for the last 24 months.
Yeah, in early 2018, as a CMO at another company, I was like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. What do we do? Yep. Right. And it was like this huge heavy lift for all of us. I totally agree, but it's going to shift again, right? We're not done yet. We haven't dialed this in just yet as an industry. And I think somebody commented that the tech is so far ahead of the regulations.
Yep.
I think we all know that. And the regulators, honestly, sometimes, we wonder what do they really know? Where are they getting their influence from? So it's a political issue as well.
Absolutely. And I think Tammy makes a great point here. These agreements aren't written to be read. We need an AI program to be able to read those agreements for us and, sift that down to something that we can understand.
Yeah, but be careful what you ask for, but that is true, right? So everything can be scanned in and everything can be analyzed and look for keywords with an AI, but be careful, make sure that the rules that you put into the model are what you want coming out. And so this is an area called, explainable AI or responsible AI in the AI space. Hot topic in the AI space right now is how do we guard against bias, discrimination, and how do you have regulatory compliance around things that absolutely matter, like fair lending, fair housing, all of that. in
Yeah.
various industries. So financial services has been dealing with this for years, and insurance companies.
Yep, absolutely. So we're starting to get close to the time here. We've got two more questions that I wanted to get out there to you. One following along the same vein of what we were just talking about. What will happen to the data that's already out there?
Well, what data?
So I think, and Tammy, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hoping we're still on the same page with this. Is let's just say we enact some of these rules and regulations. What happens to the data that's been stored on us from prior to when that
It's still
consent
there.
is given? And
It
that
doesn't.
will never go away, right?
Nobody's going to flush it. I don't know how you flush it, right? So
Right.
it's still there, but it may be stale, right? So stale data is not good data. I think everybody could agree. Data from 2 years ago, actually, data pre-COVID may not be relevant now. And this is something that COVID really highlighted for the machine learning experts, is the pattern was broken, right?
Mhm.
So March comes along in 2020, and everybody's going happy-go-lucky, and the world's going well, and stock market's rising, and purchasing patterns are going, and then boom, we couldn't predict what was going to happen next as an industry. Why? Because we'd never seen this pattern. So old data is not necessarily good data. So you want to always think about the current, what is the right current data set? Maybe the last year's worth of data, or maybe just the last quarter's worth of data. And so it's going to be the businesses, Las Vegas knows this probably better than anyone if you're in the hoteling space. Like CES 2020 happened, CES 2021, all virtual. You wouldn't have predicted that, we wouldn't need hotel reservations, right? That the town would be empty. It's crazy when you think about it, right? So
yeah,
data is only as good as the last touch on it. So really, stale old data will be around. Is it a bad thing? It's not a bad thing. It's just not going to give you the relevance that you're looking for.
Right. Yep. And I guess to pull, a maxim from Seth Godin is, the best way to be able to get somebody to change their behavior is to either act on it or not act on it. If the company's not giving you the ads that you want, don't buy from them. If somebody is, then, tell them that it's working. If the data that they're using is irrelevant, eventually they're going to get the feeling that the data is irrelevant and it's going to go away.
And it should kind of disappear from the equation, right? And I mean that from the equation, like data on me from 10 years ago when I had, middle school or high school kids is not relevant to me today, right? I'm not going to soccer practice today,
right.
But I'm going to college events today. So we all age out too, right? So data ages out.
Yep,
it has to constantly be updated.
Yeah, I'll dust off a stat from last year. It takes 38 days to change a habit. And that's where, is it 28?
20.
20. Okay.
20 or 21 days.
Okay, there you go. See, pandemic numbers definitely changing, but that's where
I don't know. I'm no expert on habits, but it was a great book about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, we've seen data changing because of the pandemic. And that's where we're going to see all this data, like you said, it's becoming
And now it's all changing again, right? What are our commuting patterns going to be? What are our travel patterns going to be?
Absolutely.
Are opening up, travel destinations are opening up. Are we going to go? Are we not going to go? What are the flights going to look? I mean, that is a huge mathematical machine learning problem that I'm sure every company is working on, right?
For sure.
What's going to, how many planes do we have take off now versus 3 months ago nobody was going anywhere.
Right. We got one last question I want to make sure we get an opportunity to get to. So Patrick is asking, are there any practical applications of AI plus machine learning that can be implemented without larger tech investments in day-to-day marketing?
Yeah, there's off-the-shelf software, right? So there's a lot of off-the-shelf software. I would say Quantcast platform is one of them. There's a lot in the MarTech space. Just, look for it and ask about it, right? By the way, be mindful that everyone uses the term AI quite liberally. It doesn't mean they're actually doing it. So it's a little bit of, let's sprinkle a little bit of AI dust on there and we'll sound so much smarter. Really examine the tech or the MarTech that you're already investing in and see if they already have an AI solution or the ad tech stack that you're using. I mean, I don't want to name names. There's a lot of technologies out there that are embedded within those solutions. So just ask and really ask like, well, you don't have to know everything, but ask what the algorithm is and how does it actually work? I mean, if you watch the AI for Everyone course, you will have enough information to ask the vendor, how are you using data and AI machine learning? And how is that uniquely different giving me results? Ask them that. And it's the same investment you're already making. So you're already making those investments. You don't have to make, quote unquote, new investments and spend boatloads of money. Now, there are companies that hire data science teams. You can hire data science experts and or consultants to come in and help you, and you can do point projects on that. That's all good. But that's different, right? So you could bring in data scientists to help you discern what's really happening.
Yeah, Ingrid, you have been a host of knowledge today. I love it. It's been a great conversation. I think we've been doing good. I think it's just been fantastic. Even just that last piece, going back to for everybody that heard it, Coursera, it's AI for everyone. Check that course out. That's a great opportunity. I know I'm going to go do it. I'm very interested to be able to ask those questions. It's really simple to take. There's,
I think, a quiz. You don't have to take the quiz. You can just keep going. Andrew is very clear about what AI is and what it isn't and how businesses can use it. And it's just a fantastic course. I encourage everyone and their kind of high school and college students to take. It's really it's the way of the future. So I really want more people to know about AI, not less.
Absolutely. I feel like I've learned a lot already. I mean, just hearing about the idea of patterns, preferences, predictions, being able to utilize the AI to kind of scale those efforts that we're taking manually and being able to look for those algorithms, kind of understanding what the difference is between the quote unquote AI pixie dust that gets dropped on things and the actual augmented intelligence that can help us make these decisions on the day to day. So Ingrid, thank you very much for that. Thank you to Quantcast as our sponsor. We really appreciate you being there. Also want to give a shout out to Skylar. If you're still on, Skylar, hope that you are enjoying spring break and everything like that. We love having you guys as a part of this group. So thank you very much for that. With that, we think we are wrapping up right here.
If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. I think you can get me at Quantcast, Ingrid.Burton@Quantcast.com, or contact your local Quantcast team. We're happy to even do more discussions with you on this topic and can go even deeper if you'd like to.
Absolutely. I think that we've got a great jumping off point from here for a lot of people out there that have been able to learn about AI today. So let's ask those questions. Let's utilize the resources that we're able to get. And Ingrid, thank you very much for being one of those resources for us. We really appreciate it. We are really excited again to have Quantcast as one of our sponsors. And thank you to all of our sponsors that are helping us out with these events and more. Remember, we've got more events that are going to be coming up in the next week, even for all of you junior members and any of you that have somebody that, like Brandy said, is making a transition in their career, younger professionals, come to that event, April 22nd. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be a lot of great knowledge that's thrown around there. Bring some friends. Let's learn together. And then make sure you've got these dates written down. As we've got May 12th is going to be our Best of the West. We're going to probably see Ingrid and some of her crew there from the San Francisco area. Competition is fierce. If you have an RSVP, let's make sure you get in there right away. And then make sure that you're also paying attention to some of those other events that we have coming up with our volunteer extravaganza coming up in June, and then Digital Tech and Planning Days right around the corner there. So thank you everybody for joining us here to try to get you out 1 minute early before your 1 o'clock Pacific time events. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you either next week or some of the other events coming up beyond that.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Bye.
Thank you.